What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Motion Sports. I've got a very special guest with me, Harry Nodwell, an amazing golfer here in the Mid-Atlantic. Put on an absolute show this past Saturday, shooting a 67. Not only that, he had a tour history first time ever at TGAA, an albatross on the par 5, I think 7th hole or 6th hole.
Seven, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, in freaking incredible. We're here to talk to Harry. He's pretty well known in the Mid-Atlantic. He's a stick. Harry, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, man. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? And also, how did you get into golf, man?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm from England. Moved over to the States to go university when I was actually older. So I was 24 when I came over. So started saving up for the States tuition. Came over at 24. Played soccer and golf at university at Christopher Newport in Virginia.
Yep.
And then from there, went to my Golf Spy, who are in the media aspect for golf, and spent 5 years there, and then transitioned into a corporate role at Wilson Sporting Goods as the pro equipment performance manager.
Okay, so let's stop right there. You're with Wilson. What do you do? I mean, it sounds like that's a big title. What do you do at Wilson Golf? When I was a kid, my first set of clubs was a Wilson. I played with a Wilson ball. It's my favorite kind of, I mean, that's what I grew up on, man. But what do you do there, man?
So I help design, basically I come to the R&D with how the industry is working, the trends, and how we want to take our product moving forward. So my vision is the first time you'll see in 24. So right as you see right now, every product in there is like my first edition of my kind of vision of where we need to tweak, where we need to go. So the irons that I play, I've had a small design influence on that. Obviously, I don't design it. I tell them what direction I want them to go. So I want them to have a straight leading edge. I want them to feel like this. I want them to sound like this. I want to perform like this. R&D are the magic behind it. Like R&D are the ones that take my vision in a way and make it come to life on a performance and looks perspective. So I give them just a couple of nuggets, and then they run with it. So nowhere near anything compared to what R&D can do.
I'm super excited for this one, man, because I'm kind of a gear geek. I love like the science behind golf. It's impossible for me to like perfect, but guys like you who can actually make the ball do what you want it to do, it's really cool to say. But let's get into Wilson, man. Let's get into man, they have gone a long way. I love their irons. I love the driver that they have that come out. Let's get into like the specs, and let's get into like the gear talk of Wilson. What makes Wilson? It's called the Dynapower, right? The new driver that they have.
So yeah, the 2023 driver is Dynapower. Yeah, we got a titanium, we got a carbon model, and then we got fairway and a hybrid in there for the wood section.
We see the likes of, I was a fan of TaylorMade until I broke 2 Stealth 2s, like the carbon. They just cracked my head's cracked and everything else. But what makes the Dynapower so special, man? I mean, you're hitting it very well. I mean, I'm hearing great things about the driver. Talk about like the specs of the driver. What is giving it that huge pop? Because right now you have the QI10, and the 10K dispersion. It's supposed to help dispersion. What is Wilson doing to really compete against these bigger boys like TaylorMade and Titleist and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go from 0 to 100 or 0 to TaylorMade in a year, right? So we're making incremental gains. We're an iron company through and through. Like our irons are just unmatched. We are getting very much more in tune with the wood world. So our Dynapower is like our first push back into the industry with our wood section. And it's just one of those ones that we want to put out a good product, and we did put out a good product with the Dynapower line. So what we what's difference between the carbon and the titanium? Carbon is a little bit lower spinning, a little bit more penetrating ball flight,
Yep.
and you can work it both ways. The titanium's a little bit more higher MOI, with a little bit of a draw bias in there. So
Right.
it's a little bit more forgiving. Think of it like a max version, per se. And then the carbon is that mid to low spin with a bit more penetrating ball flight. And I played the carbon at 1 degree open. I've got some hot melt in there. Like I'm lucky. I get to go to Chicago when I go up to corporate. That's where we're located. I fly up there and I'll tinker around all day, and dial in my golf clubs. So I'm pretty lucky in that aspect, and I got 6 grams of hot melt in that head, placed exactly where I want it to. So yeah, it's just one of those ones that I get to tinker around. I get to put the shaft that fits best for me, and you can do that as well. You just have to go get fit, get dialed in, and you get the same performance.
So guys like Todd Ackerman, Carl Williams, they always like to get a little bit more swing weight in the head. Then you see
Yeah,
people counterbalancing their. I know like guys like Matt Fitzpatrick always likes to counterbalance his irons. He likes to weight kind of more in the handle of the
yeah.
club. What do you think is best for, let's say, an amateur golfer, man? He's struggling, he's fading the ball, he's just can't get that ball to turn over like he wants to. Wants to have a little bit more distance. My driver set at a D6 swing weight. It seems a
Hmm.
little bit more balanced, but I do like the feel of more of it, especially me being a baseball player. I like a more of a feel of the heavier
Yeah.
head feel. What would you recommend for an amateur golfer, kind of tinker around, likes to play with their clubs? Would you recommend more of a heavier weighted club in the head to help?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah. Well,
um,
okay. So let's say the guy.
it comes down. Yeah, give me a scenario, because
So
there's so
okay,
many
let's say a
different.
guy swings about 105 miles an hour. Okay,
Okay.
has a pretty decent swing speed, but wants to get a little bit more pop and wants, because more drivers today, I feel they like to fade the ball, like a little baby fade,
Yep.
But a
The
guy
better
wants to,
golfer will. Yeah.
yeah. But, let's say you want more of a straight draw bias driver, right?
Hmm.
Coming off the shelf. I mean, you're buying it from PGA superstores per se, and they say, put this 60-gram Tensai shaft in, and it's going to help you do whatever you need it to do. And that just doesn't happen.
Hmm.
Um, what's your recommendations per se to kind of fiddle with the club a little bit more to make it do what you want it to do on a
Yeah.
consistent basis? Help dispersion,
Yeah. So
things.
I would say, if you, every manufacturer has this, like an adjustable hosel for the most part, right? So anytime you increase loft, you close the face and make it a draw bias.
Right,
So say you have a 9 and you crank it up to a 10, you're actually closing the face and making a slight draw bias. So
right,
if you have a fade and you want to straighten out your shot, give that a go first. Um, if you have weight that you can maneuver in the head, put it up, whether it's at the back of the driver or on the heel or on the toe. You want a heaviest one to put on the heel and move that weight towards the heel. Anytime that you move weight to the heel, you'll end up making a more draw bias. Anytime that you push weight out into the toe, you make it into a fade bias.
hmm,
Um, as it comes to how the club feels, I like to feel where the club is at all times. So I like to feel a little heavier.
hmm.
So I can, as I'm coming down, I know exactly where it is I'm playing. I know where it's going to come and when to release. If it's too light for me, I can't feel where it goes, and I get hands at impact. So my dispersion actually opens up.
Right,
As a golfer, if they want to get more speed, the easiest thing to do is to go for a lightweight shaft. However, you're going to sacrifice something. So if you want to swing it 2 or 3 miles faster, you can potentially do that by putting a 40, 50-gram shaft in there
right. Then
compared
it's
to a 60
whippy.
or 70.
Yeah,
That's just physics. It's just going to happen. But your dispersion is probably going to open up because you're not used to that feeling.
right,
So there's give and take when it comes to golf. Um, for me, I want to feel where the club is at all times. I want to feel that I have one-way miss. So if I'm going to miss right. I never want to see the ball go left.
right.
Even if I turn it over, I want to see like a 3 or 4 or 5 yard draw. I don't want to see a power hook. So I've customized everything that I want into my game to make it work for me. Now every golfer can do that, and a great way to do that is lofting up or lofting down. Because anytime that you decrease loft, you make it a fade bias.
Right.
So it's really what I mean. The equipment these days are it's so advanced to what back in the day when Wilson was the number one company in the game. All right, other companies came through, and then Wilson are making a big stand right now as we come back through, and we're as good as anyone else out there. We've just people have just got to get back and hit it again.
Talk about the golf ball now that Wilson created.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I mean, obviously the king of all creme is the TaylorMade Pro V, but I'll be honest with you, I had to take 4 balls out of play this past Saturday because of scarring and just different scuffs on the golf ball. It is a soft golf ball, but you're paying $54 for a dozen of golf balls, and you're going through 4 or 5 of them because they scar so easily. And that's the sacrifice that you have for a soft feeling golf ball. But Wilson has really come up with a really nice golf ball here on the market. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we have the Staff Model X, which is going to spin a little bit more, launch a little bit higher. It's going to feel a little firmer. And then we got your staff model, which is going to feel a little softer, going to spin a little less. And around the greens, they both react pretty rapidly. So if you're in the 15 yard and in 50 yards and in, you can control pretty much both of those balls that you want. And then you've got your triad, which is a 3-piece construction that is a very, very high MOI golf ball. So very forgiving, flies very straight, really good high performing golf ball. So yeah, it's just one of those ones. It's get it in your hands, go test them out, because I guarantee if you haven't hit a Wilson golf ball, you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Let's talk about Harry's golf game in general. What makes you such a great golfer? I mean, you see the gamut on the TGAA tour of golfers from 25 to a 0 to a +1. What is your swing thoughts? What's your philosophy of the game, and who did you model it after? I guess
I mean, I started when I was 11. My old man got me into it. I just started playing golf for fun. Went and played golf in England with my dad, and I think 3 years later I started beating, which he wasn't too happy about, just because I was 14 at the time and started driving it, got more competitive.
right?
But I mean, I'm lucky enough I've had a couple of lessons to get me going, and I haven't really had a lesson since. It was more
Wow.
about I think 16, I stopped having lessons just because I was more playing soccer.
Right.
And golf was my second sport, and I just wanted to focus on soccer. So I hadn't really had a lesson per se, but it was more to do with just watching everyone. My swing hasn't changed since I was a kid. Maybe just a couple of tweaks here and there with face angle on the way back on my backswing, but it's all pretty much one plane. I try not to make it complicated. I try not to get it in slots or drop it in your pocket and wrap around and turn. I'm pretty simple.
Yeah.
I try and make sure that if I start playing badly, I just slow everything down and just try and time it up again. My biggest thing is chests. Like, if I don't open my chest all the way and get my back to target, I open my chest. If I'm looking at my golf ball and I'm there, you've got 12 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock.
Right.
So I open my chest to about 2 o'clock. I don't go to 3, I don't go to 4, don't do anything like that. And then as I come through, I'm trying to go to 10 o'clock. And I'm just, as I'm getting into impact, I'm trying to get my chest to 10 o'clock, not all the way through. And I'm just trying to simplify the game. I'm not so in depth with swing thoughts. I have my routine, and my trigger is a little bump with my body, and that's my trigger, and I'm just off you goes. I
Where
try and keep it
where
very
do you feel
simple.
your hands at your highest point on your backswing? Do you feel it up here, or do you try to extend way out, or are you more
No,
vertical?
it's honestly, I don't try and extend. Um, I just keep it. I keep it going back as long as possible. So I try not to cock my wrists and break my wrists for a little bit longer. So as
Okay,
it comes to say waist height, that's when I'll start picking the club up, and
okay.
then I don't know how high or low my hands are. I just make sure that that's there, and I let my muscle memory do the rest.
You use the ground very well. I mean, you have a very powerful swing. Being a soccer
Mm.
player, large legs, large behind, you've got
Yeah,
quite a bit of power, and you use the ground well. Talk to about that. How do you use the ground to generate your force?
yeah. Honestly, it's more to do with, luckily, like you said, growing up playing football. It was more kicking a ball around. I've just got stronger legs, and I try and stay very grounded as I swing. So I'm basically pushing off one side, getting to the other, and then pushing back. But I'm not pushing back laterally, I'm pushing down and up. So I'm going, as I go back, I'm pushing down into my right side. And then as
Mhm.
I come down, I'm pushing down off my right and up into my left. So it's kind of that like seesaw kind of area where you're just pushing against the ground. And if your feet start twisting, you know you're doing something right. If you're making imprints in the grass, you're and it's not just doing this.
Like Scotty Scheffler moving all over the freaking place, but
Yeah,
not
I mean
not
he
that
uses the
extreme.
ground, but he uses it and just kind of skirts around. I don't.
Right.
His is like absolutely unique and so hard to do. For me, it's like I'm just trying to get my think of it like I'm grabbing with claws in the ground, and I'm
Okay.
just trying to push whilst keeping it still stable
Are
and
you
not
more
twisting.
flat-footed through him? I mean, like, on your backswing, you more flat-footed, or you let your left foot kinda come up a little bit and then press on it through your
My
follow
left
through?
foot price stays pretty quiet. Um, my right foot starts to do a couple of things, especially at impact. The heel starts coming up.
Okay.
Um, but I try and as I come through, I try and transition, and my left heel comes up and twists out the wave. So I'm basically trying to finish on my heel
I
instead of
gotcha.
on my toes. Because
I
anytime you
gotcha.
finish on your toes or your weight is on your toes, you just sway off it and you can really easily just mess up.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, because 'cause you're always taught, finish on the toe, on your left side, all the way through. So
Mm.
that makes a lot of sense. Well, let's talk about the round, man. Let's talk about your round at Mattapanai. We bring the scoreboard up. You finished second, one shot behind JB, but how you got to -5 was very, very cool. Man, going into the front nine, your boy here was on fire. you know,
I know. I saw the leaderboard and I was like, this is impressive. He was like, what, you 4 or 5 under after nine?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I was 6 under
Six
after nine.
under.
Yeah. And
Damn.
then I saw you get a double eagle, and then started looking at the scoreboard, watching. I'm like, "What the hell just happened? Is this
No,
real?"
we did the same thing. We didn't know what happened. um, I mean, started off fine, 1 under after two, and then greens were a little slower, so I kept leaving myself a little bit of a 6 foot, 8 foot short.
Yeah,
Um, I got to seven level, um, and then hit driver 8 iron into that par five, and I mean, look, that pin location, I was never ever gonna be going for that pin.
right.
If you miss it left, you're dead.
Yep.
So I was going for the middle of the green, 2 putt walk off. Happy as Larry, you're good. Um, Pulled it onto the pin. I didn't see it. JJ saw it. It was on top of the hill, and so nonchalant just was like, "Oh, good shot," and oh, it's gone in, and it was just so nonchalant. We didn't
I would have
know if
gone
he was being
freaking nuts.
serious.
I would have gone nuts
I mean, it
seeing
helped the putter stats, didn't it? So that was
it.
that was good.
0 putts definitely helps.
Yeah.
But man, I mean,
Yeah,
that's obviously your first albatross in your life, right? I mean, that's so rare, man.
yeah, no, it is. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know how rare it was until after the round where it was like it's more rare than a hole in one. So
For
that
sure.
was pretty cool experience.
So what are you thinking, man? Like, okay, you just had the shot of your life. You know what I mean? But now you got to finish the tournament, and something interesting happened kind of on the back nine. We had a lot of mist come in, and
Hmm.
the ball, it wasn't too bad on the front nine for us, but once we got to 10, man, I started noticing like the ball was rooster tailing, a lot of moisture was coming in, the ball
Hmm.
wasn't going in as far as it was. What adjustments did you make throughout the back nine to help you be, I mean, just Mr. Consistent to the finish?
Staying patient, I would say. On 10, that exact thing happened. I ended up just off the green in like a weed or something like that. I
Hmm.
chunked the chip and didn't get up and down, and um, but it was one of those ones that I knew there was holes coming up that you just stay patient on. Honestly, the biggest thing for me is just noticing that those chip shots, you're not going to get any grab on them. You're not going to get the reaction that you would normally get. So
Right.
just try and play not bumping runs, but more lofted launch, come in soft, and expect maybe 6 to 8 foot roll. So if I did miss the green, that's what I ended up trying to do and trying to get it close. Ended up working out just how I wanted it to. Had some rough patches going through the back nine, but managed to scramble and save the round.
Talk about your course management. What's your philosophy of course management? Like, you let's say you have a dog leg right. Are you the kind of guy that tees off on the right hand side, let your fade hit, or I mean, what do you do to manage courses and holes generally? Like, what's your thought process going into a tee?
Um, Biggest advice: Scott Fawcett, Decade Golf. Very much statistic kind of driven. It's a very methodical way of just thinking. It takes the motion out of your game. Did I use it to its full extent on Saturday? No, but I've used it enough. When I qualified for the US Open finals last year, I used it and was very regimented on it. It tells you really not to go after pins as much. Be patient. If there's a dog leg statistically higher up, if it's 70 yards wide, um, and you're hitting your driver good, it's better to go say potentially take that risk if it takes out all the trouble, rather than just hitting an iron, laying back short of the trouble, and then having a long iron or a wood into a green.
Right.
Um, Statistically, it's better to clear everything and go into an area and hopefully have like a wedge in your hand rather than a four. So it's just really kind of seeing what holes up there. Nine's a prime example of it, right? So
Yep.
nine at Matapanai, it was more of a you could hit driver. Um, you could end up going down the hill, but you could end up losing it on right. You could end up losing it left. So
Correct.
that was a prime example of just lay up to the top and just in your mind know that you're going to have a 7 or a 6 iron in, because the risk in my head was if I hit driver and I don't hit a perfect one, instead of having a wedge, I could end up having a double or a triple or whatever if I
Hmm.
lose it. So if I if I can just potentially do that one, that's just again methodically looking at decade and making sure that you're taking your medicine when you need to, but also playing into the statistics that you need to play into.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think, when you're out there, you don't think about all, I mean, I don't think about all that. I'm just thinking about just get the damn golf ball off the tee box. You know what I mean? But, as you grow as a golfer, I mean, certainly that certainly does play. And one major mistake I made was on 13 as the mist was coming in. I didn't even consciously wipe down my club or wipe down my grip. When I swung that club, it kind of slipped out of my hand and I snapped it into the woods, and just stuff like that. Just don't pay attention to details, and it cost me, man. It cost me big time, and that was a mental case going after that hole. It was just downhill from there.
So that's obviously, I'm just talking about course management. Then you got to take into account weather. It's going to be different, right? So you're going to lose about 20 to potentially 50% of spin when playing in wet conditions and the ground's wet, the ball's wet. It's going to launch higher, it's going to spin less, it's going to come out more of a knuckleball. You won't be able to control your spin as well. However, the wedges that I have, you lose about 20% of that spin that you would in dry conditions, which is the leader in the market based on our testing. So you can play a little bit more aggressively with that and just play normal like you would be drying. But
now,
when
why
it
is that?
comes
Because
to
you have deeper grooves, or why? What's the technology
so
behind that?
it's the way, the combination that the R&D team designed it. So we got a new groove, we got a new garnet blasting on that face, which is kind of like, it feels like a little bit of a rougher material, and then we've got a mill pattern on top of that face. So all three combination, depending on whether it's a full shot, you get into a certain amount of grooves, or if it's a 15-yarder, you're not really going to use the grooves as well because the ball's not going to get in there because you're not compressing as much. You're going to get into the garnet blasting and the mill pattern to get that spin generating. So all these kind of things with technology these days, you've got to play the way that you're going to play. Like, there's always moisture in the ground. There's always going to be some kind of factor that interrupts you and your spin that you would normally play.
Right.
So that's what I end up doing, is just playing to the elements, making sure that I know what's going to happen to the golf ball in certain conditions, and again, just experience it's just one of those things.
So let's talk about you. Let's talk about your specs. Like, what are you looking for with your driver on the simulator? What numbers are you looking at? Are you looking at 26, 2700 spin, 14-degree angle launch? What numbers are you looking at that makes you feel confident that you got the right setup for you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit unique. I actually really look at dynamic loft.
Okay.
So I have my launch at say 12 to 13 degrees with angle of attack 2 to 3 up, spin rate at 22 to 24.
That's low. Wow.
It's actually it's pretty optimal at that launch.
Yeah.
I mean,
'cause you have a real high. I mean, your apex is like 145. It looks like,
yeah. I mean, that's hitting 2 degrees up, but my spin, I never want to see it go below that because I can't control the golf ball. Like 1800 is the limit, really. Now, if you just like to hit high bombs, and you're pretty straight with your face to path and face to target relationship, then yeah, you can get away with it. However, I just don't feel comfortable at that spin rate, so I like to see it in 22 to 24. I like to see a fade off that driver. It's just one of those ones that I looked at. If I launch it at 12, I have a dynamic loft of 3. It's my rule of 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I launch it at 12, the dynamic loft should be 15. So as
explain
I
to
see
people
that,
who don't know what dynamic loft is. Explain what that. It's a ratio, but what does it encompass?
So basically, dynamic loft is the loft that is at impact. So say you have a static loft of a 9-degree driver. Well, if your face angle, if you delivered it back to that exact same point, your launch and dynamic loft would be 9. Does that make sense? So you normally end up, like, if you hit up on it, you're going to add loft, so your face is going to start going this way. So as I come through to my left side, if I launch it at 12, but my loft is now up here, I want to see it at like 15 to make sure that I'm getting the most optimal launch window. So it's more to do with, you have your launch, it's going to launch at 12, but my face angle is going to make it go a little higher, or it's going to kick, the shaft's going to kick in a little bit and add dynamic loft. So yeah, it's just one of those ones that I always look about 3 degrees regarding my driver, 3 to 4 in my fairway wood, depending on what kind of shot I want to do. If not, if I want to hit stingers all day, I'll be looking at maybe a 2-degree separation for dynamic loft.
I got
in my woods. Yeah.
What's your swing speed on average? Like if you average day?
Any between 119 and 122.
Good God Almighty. That is rolling.
But it, like, because I'm just one plane, it doesn't look that fast.
Right.
It's just the one plane. I don't drop in any slots. It's just keeping it consistent.
And your carry numbers at that's probably what, 310, 320?
I would say it's about anywhere between 290 and 315. It just depends on strike location, spin.
Gotcha. We're going to talk about one thing. You made it to the second stage qualifying in the U.S. Open. It's getting ready to come up. Are you going to be doing it again this year?
Yeah, next Tuesday, actually. Yeah.
And where are you playing?
Back where I qualified at Hillendale, up in Maryland. Myron's on the bag for me. So fingers crossed I can, I don't know. I haven't been practicing as much, so I don't know what game's going to turn up that day. It could be Saturday's game. It could not be Saturday's game.
So rumor has it last year that Myron cost you the spot in the U.S. Open in second stage qualifying. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't handle 36 holes. It was just rough.
Well, he's lost a lot of weight now. He's lost a ton of weight, so maybe he'll be able to carry the bag. You won't have to carry your own bag like you did last year.
No, he did great. He actually in qualifying, he pulled me off a couple of shots that actually saved me because a gust of wind came up before and I didn't realize. And he pulled me off, and I actually went on and made birdie on that hole, and then got my round going. So,
well, there you go, man. Congratulations, Myron. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
That's awesome, man. Well, how can people get a hold of you, man? Let's say they want to get in some Wilson equipment. What's the best way? Can they get in contact with you? What's the best way to get fitted through Wilson?
It's go to like a PGA Tour Superstore. There's multiple ways to. There's demo days that we put on. Go to Wilson website. You'll be able to see locations around you where you could get fit for Wilson products. With our new Blade CBs, Dynapower Forge, Dynapower irons, and then you've got your wedges. I mean, you have to just go out and try them, because once you try them, it's just one of those ones that you probably won't go back.
Phenomenal. Well, Harry, man, thanks for your time, man. Really, really enjoyed talking to you about all this, man. This is exciting, and man, good luck, man. We'll be rooting for you on the US Open qualifier. Get through that first stage like we know you can, and let's see what you can do. Hopefully, we'll see you at Pinehurst, man. It'd be awesome.
That would be cool. That would be pretty sweet.
Cool. Well, Harry, thanks for your time, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Take care.